Hey everyone, thank you for joining our committee meeting. We have a pretty full agenda today, and so I want to make sure I try to respect your times. The very first thing that we want to talk about, first off, our agenda is in the chat. I think you all know that, but we want to talk about our January public meeting with truancy and chronic absenteeism panel. I know there was a lot of discussion via email, and just wanted to get some of your feedback as far as like what you all think we should be doing with this one, and if you all are okay with moving forward with that.
I believe we got everyone's feedback except for you and Frazier, Brandon. So what are your thoughts?
Oh,
I'm totally fine with it. Oh, sorry, Frazier, go ahead.
I sent a name to I thought would be a good panelist. Did y'all not get that? I thought that was my response. I mean, I'm all for it.
I'm all for it too. I have a couple names as well, as far as the truancy and chronic absenteeism panelists, potential panelists.
I know I put what I was writing in the email was similar to this December's meeting. The January meeting is probably going to be everyone commenting on the report card, as well as what else? Report card, we have elections, there's a lot of stuff going on, and the students will probably come back. So
And DME, you talking about the public meeting? Oh, the public.
Yes. So I was just offering that, like, maybe one, we are coming fresh off of what is it, multiple hearings, hours long on truancy and absenteeism. I wonder what will we get different than what we've heard in the hearings. And is it like the best use of our time? Because like the last meeting, I know we were like, it was 10 o'clock and people were kind of rushing through resolutions and the work, and we had students and people staying really late to testify. So I'm just kind of curious of what are we planning on getting that's different from what we've heard from council? I know we're not council, but yeah.
That's a great question. The person I recommended is Anita Berger at Banneker, and they have a very low attendance or truancy in its lack of attendance rate. And I don't know who, I didn't stay for I testified at all those hearings, but I didn't stay for all of the testimony. I think I was thinking there was going to sort of be a panel of experts.
And just one more thing I'll raise, given apparently with the 2 hearings and the amount of hours, it seems like it's a hot issue that
Right.
For 3-minute rounds and we have experts in front of us, it's rushed to me. And I know we can engage folks after panels, etc. But I don't think it does it justice. So I figure, I mean, we've written resolutions off of roundtables before. So I'm curious of like, yeah, I mean, I've stated my opinion. I feel like our January meeting is going to be packed. And I think we need to give ourselves space for that, as well as the people who are going to show up to testify, give them space for that. And maybe it needs to be a roundtable, or like, can we maybe staff synthesize we heard from hearings, or I don't know, but whatever it is, that's my opinion. I know I'm not the only person in the group, so I'm happy to go with the majority, but I just know what usually happens when we have something coming out of OSSI that's going to be a hot button like the report card. It's going to be a lot of folks coming, so just offering that yeah, good.
I think those are all really good points that you raised. And I also, I do think about, what would be different. And obviously, public record, and it coming to us. My one concern, and not even concern, it's just like, if we do a roundtable, like, what are we going to do to ensure that members are actually watching that? Because, I think that was one of the challenges with the AI roundtable. We didn't have a lot of members who were participating or who were there. Not saying that people didn't watch it out afterwards, maybe they did. But like, what could we put in place to ensure that the members are actually there? Because I think at the AI roundtable, lots of great information, but still not sure how many people actually heard the things that needed to be stated.
Yeah, and I will say I'm guilty. I did not attend the AI roundtable. I will say though, I've hosted the sexual assault roundtable, and one thing that worked for that roundtable was we put it during a committee meeting time, so that way you had at least your core members who but yeah, I think even then it was just Emily Kasoy and I who attended. But we still got a resolution out that the board voted for unanimously. So if members, in my head, I'm going to attend things that I am passionate about. I don't know, but I know around AI is one of the ones that I'm just like, oh, not my area of expertise, but need to learn about it. Because it's happening rapidly. But I definitely take that point well of like if we roundtable something, member engagement, but then what does it say about forced engagement? People are at the meeting and asking questions to ask questions when we know we want something that's like meaningful to come out of this experience. I'm also curious, Darren, like would staff be open? I know I don't want to take over y'all's time or anything, but like synthesizing some of the stuff from the hearings from council for board members to review, kind of like how you all previously did about some of the topics where we didn't have like time, but you presented during a working session of like, here are the high level things that people should be mindful of related to attendance, and truancy. I'm just kind of like, I just don't want to panel the panel. We're rushing through 3 minutes and it's really exercising who can speak the fastest.
Just to that question, Carlene, we don't have anything written right now, but we absolutely could provide some highlights from the council hearings. I know yesterday was the government witness ones as well. So just pulling together what we can from that when we get back into the office in January. Just one other thing on having a panel. It would be focused on strategies and tools that are working to curb truancy. So this is more like targeting organizations and schools that are having success. And so if you all are already sharing panelists, first thing tomorrow, I would be reaching out to potential panelists, seeing their interest and availability for our January public meeting. I know one that we've reached out to earlier was Dr. Rustin Lewis, Executive Director of Communities and Schools of the nation's capital, who provided testimony to the council at their December 12th hearing. And I also pulled some of the testimony and listened back to the hearing. And there were a few schools that we could reach out to hear more specific targeted questions. And then to the roundtable item, the strength of that would be even though it's not well attended, it could serve for members to ask more direct questions in sort of like a panel. It would inform the board in a different way. But to get community engagement in that, even though they might not show up to the roundtable, is things like social media, asking communities or people on Twitter, what questions would you like us to ask, for example? But all of this could inform the board on chronic absenteeism and truancy.
So, but Darren, correct me if I'm wrong. The purpose of the roundtables, from what I've been told, is also for our members, not necessarily the public, but public they're invited, but it's more so for the members, correct?
Correct.
I might have a middle road, because to me I felt just like Pauline did as far as my knowledge of the AI. Although I gained some at the NASB conference, that was the first thing I really knew about, except for Chat GPT, where I'm trying to keep my college students from writing someone else's paper or whatever. But I think that a panel of experts would guide a resolution. I think it's important that we do have a resolution and acknowledge the emergency that we're in as far, and it really is an emergency. If you look at the numbers, there are only a handful of schools that have less than 30%, you know, whatever that word is about attendance, chronic attendance problems. But I think that if we had a panel of experts, as Darren was saying, who are informing us about how they are successful. All right. I mean, I know why Banneker is more successful than Cardozo. All right. It's not the same audience at all. All right. But if you look at there are only two public high schools in the city whose attendance is less than 20%. And that's School Without Walls and Banneker. Everybody else is over 30. Half of them are over 50% of chronic attendance problems. Over 10% of the school year were missed. So I think if we could have a panel of experts who we could question about that would just flavor our resolution that we would put forward in support of trying to halt the flow of students not coming to school. And like everybody said, it's a very hot button issue right now, but we need to be in front of that and if we had a panel of experts that were testifying about how they were successful, that would be something completely different than what the council had. The council had how many people? Was it 81 or I think it was 81%, 81 people testified, but also they had the government witnesses. But you know, the government witnesses were just covered.
So I think that's like why I'm also kind of like, could we roundtable it? Because council has already had a panel, a hearing where people are stuck on the clock for 3 minutes and we can't get deeper engagement outside of what goes like for the 3 minutes the member has the person, or their 5 minutes that they get to testify. So I'm just kind of like, what can we do something different?
The difference is those people that the council had weren't experts on how it worked. They were the ones that were affected by it.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So you know what I mean? Like when I look at the chancellor's testimony, which he gave yesterday, I guess, and his numbers weren't even the same as us.
Mm-hmm.
So that we want to have listen to, this is how it works.
Right, which is why I would like, can we get deeper engagement with the people who shares why it works? You know,
Yeah,
we could do that. And they're going to have an abundance of information to share with us. That would be good to like ping pong it back and forth, have a natural conversation related to what is working in their buildings or organizations. Yeah.
Yeah, I agreed with Carlene for all the reasons that she said, and I think I shared in that email chain a link to the testimony where I don't know why this happened, but Chairman Mendelson just kind of ignored the clock for a little while, and they had that kind of a conversation where it was truly, give and take. And I don't remember exactly who the witnesses were at that point, but they were more along the lines of experts like you're suggesting, Fraser. And I mean, I realize there's pressure to kind of move forward for a panel in January. I just preferred the roundtable approach.
Thank you.
The only problem with the roundtable is like what Carlene said about, because we really didn't have the AI roundtable was fabulous, but it was like this room that I'm in right now was kind of empty.
So what's the difference from the public meeting, Fraser? Because the public doesn't get to talk about. I mean, the people who I guess sitting in the back waiting to testify, they get to listen to the folks. But my guess is they're there because they want to express their feelings.
I think he was talking about also from the from the state board perspective. There were people in the crowd, but yeah, I actually I get your point. I just put it in the chat. I understand your point. Darren, I have a question for you. Like, so if the panel had already been is and I guess it's not already put in motion, but is what could we do now?
I think for now, I think if you could all just send me potential panelists just for the public meeting, because whether or not we have it, emails need to start going out now so I can confirm before we close for break, just due to the urgency of this. And then, but this can be discussed more during the working session, the January 3rd working session, more about the roundtable and the panel as well. And right after this meeting, I'll also type up the committee report so that all of this can be continued and discussed with the wider members at the January 3rd committee. So in a
Okay.
nutshell, by tomorrow morning or by noon, if you all could just send me, if you had a few, like 1, 2, 3 panelists that you'd like for us to reach out to that could speak to what schools are doing well, or what experts can say about those things, I think that'd be very helpful.
Okay, and then if we did a potential panel, I mean not panel, but roundtable, we would have it during our regular meeting time for this committee. Is that what we were also saying?
I'm sorry, could you repeat? I was reading Carlene's comment. Could you say that one more time?
No, I was just saying if we did have the roundtable, we would host it during our committee meeting. Is that also what we're saying as
Yes,
well?
around that time. It
Okay,
would
cool.
give the committee enough time to do that.
Yeah, honestly, I'm okay with the idea of a roundtable if we can get members to participate, and that's I think the biggest thing for me, because if not, then it's honestly a waste of our time as well. If no one's coming to listen, like it's just a bunch of people asking questions, like, you know what I mean? It's not a bunch of people, it's just like 2 or 3 people asking questions. So if we can get others to commit to coming, then I'm all about the roundtable 1,000%, because it gives us an opportunity to dive deeper into a challenge that we're facing, as long as we can find ways to get other members involved.
That was the biggest problem when we talked about that in the leadership meeting, about having a robust conversation. That's why we wanted to do it at a public meeting, because we knew that
We don't have robust conversations.
well, we would have well, at the business meeting, at the working session. But
Oh,
having,
the panelists will come there?
well, the people, because I mean, we've had the last time, our last working session, we had a robust conversation with Aussie. Everybody had questions. I just, I agree with what you're saying, Carlene, about we don't have robust conversation because we don't get a chance to have a conversation. It's just everyone's opinion about it.
I actually think that makes sense, a lot of sense. If we could fit it into a working meeting, then everyone's already there, and you're learning about what it is that you're trying to.
Then you can't escape.
That's a great one.
And then I don't know if Darren remembers, but we haven't. I'm gonna say, Darren, back in your day, the working sessions were open to the public. They just couldn't speak, right? And then we never revisited that when the pandemic protocols were lifted. Right. So we opened up our public meeting to the public. But working sessions used to be members of the public could be in the room, but they just weren't,
it's still, that's in the bylaws. It's still that way. We just haven't had anybody come. I came to, I remember when before I ran,
Yeah, because we remember that one lady came and she was asked to leave. I think even the script, it still says for working sessions, those are still closed, or we're operating like working sessions are still closed. I don't think we've been very clear on the public actually can come to working sessions now that we've looked at pandemic protocols.
Yeah, that's a very good point that we need to take up at our next meeting too, to decide, because that was what it was. I forgot about the pandemic.
So,
Because I came to the working session before I ran, and that was 6 years ago.
yeah.
And I think it's still in the bylaws if I remember, but I'll check it out. Got the bylaws.
So I want to bring this back to next steps. It looks like the next steps, we provide Darren with names of potential panelists just in case. We bring this to the whole group to determine if we can have a roundtable during the working session. If we can do that, then how many of us are in favor of that?
Wait, not during the working session, it's during the committee, right?
Oh, I thought we said during the working session.
No, I was talking about a discussion, but not, if you're talking about a roundtable. Would that, Carlene, is that what you?
I was saying it could be at the working session or it could be at the committee meeting. But I'm just not in favor of it happening at the January meeting where we can't give it due diligence as a topic. With the three, or in general, is, I mean, 3-minute rounds and a lack of like back and forth and being able to dig a little more and really lean on these individuals' expertise. It's not fair, and it leans on the side of performative. So I would prefer that we can do it either in a round table, or we can do it in a working session. And I agree, Ferry, the last meeting with Ossie was very robust and a really good conversation, engagement, and dialogue. That's what we need to keep doing.
Okay, if we, I agree with, yeah. So we
Yeah,
don't have to call it a roundtable. We'll just call it a 30
Whatever.
minutes for this.
Whatever it's called, I think, me personally, I recommend, and it's just me, that it would take place during the time of a working session, so we could have all members that are to be present.
Yeah, I agree.
So, regardless of what we call it, conversation, roundtable, I think that right there is a good approach, and I think we all kind of came to that kind of together. So I like that as well. So I want to make sure that I'm also acknowledging everyone's time, and I want to make sure I'm respecting their time and move forward to the next thing. Unless there is anything else we want to add about the panel / roundtable / working meeting.
I would just say that it probably needs to happen in the February working session, because January, I imagine, is full with report card.
Okay.
And the DME, both Aussie and the DME have presentations.
Okay.
At the working session.
Perfect. And Darren, I saw your comment. Thank you. That's very helpful. So we also want to finalize this definition of safety. Darren has been doing an amazing job. He went out to the SAC meetings. I joined him at one of them. I think he also during the My Brother's Keeper event also asked about safety as well, like when people feel most safe. And so based off of the SAC meetings, we were able to come up with a definition of safety, and we wanted to provide that with you. Darren, could you share that with everyone? Do you have that with you?
I put it in the chat. I could read it, and also I know Rochelle sent out an email synthesizing a lot of the SAC members' reactions to the draft definition.
Hey, Darren, quick question. Wasn't it also the condition of being and feeling?
No, but that was what we heard back from students. So there is an email that you received believe last week, with the feedback that we received from students, as well as the scanned. We handed Brendan handed out sheets with the definition and all the members' first round of input and definitions that they wanted. And so students wrote on the draft definition and then shared feedback. And then Rochelle shared out just highlights from that. And so I think one of the goals is to have a working definition of this. But yeah, to your point, Brandon, one of the pieces of feedback was putting the feeling of that in there, or emphasizing the feeling of that in there. And I could read this out to you, but the condition of being physically and mentally protected from immediate or potential harms. And again, SAC members shared feedback on that. So I think they wanted to see that change. I know one of the goals for the annual report is to have a working definition. So by the end of 2023, finalizing that. Brandon, did you want to do that in this meeting or offline? Just decide the final version with members.
I mean, I guess we could do that. We can do that here. I don't know how long that would. It doesn't matter. I think we could try it here if within the next 10 minutes or so.
And I could share my screen with that email from Rochelle, if that's helpful.
Yes.
Okay, give me one moment.
Yeah, we had a really good conversation. The students took the time to look at the definition, and then they were also able to provide some feedback. And that's where I was sharing the condition of being and feeling physically and mentally protected from immediate or potential harm was one of the biggest things that we heard from our students.
Do we want to be even, I mean, that sounds very specific and general, if that's possible. I mean, I think that's perfect.
I'm all for definitions that are memorable because it helps you apply it and think of it on the fly. It makes it more applicable. So I think this is helpful.
Because that definition, I don't see it, but that definition that Darren just read, you know, that for me is a little essay on what does this mean kind of thing, but it gives you a lot of meat to write about.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm in favor of the definition if we include you know, the feeling component as well. One of the things that we heard from our students was, well, you know, you could be physically protected, but if you don't feel like it, you know, mentally and emotionally, it's harming that student. And so I feel good about it if we keep it as the condition of being being and feeling physically and mentally protected from immediate or potential harm.
Could you? Oh, is my speaker on?
Oh yeah, and the other one was the state, I guess. Yeah.
I have this up. Can you all see Rochelle's excellent feedback from students, or highlights from students' feedback?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Brandon, what you just said, could you type that into the chat so I can capture that and make sure that we have this secured for the committee? We could also add this to the state board website, the school community and well-being.
It's right, Darren, isn't it right there under the fourth bullet?
Yes, but any corrections to it? So what, any additions to that or a final version? Brandon, if you could add that to the chat, and then members, if anybody reacts to that, once we have a final version, I could share that out in the committee report.
Yeah, I totally forgot about the condition and versus state conversation that the students had also. They felt more comfortable with the word state, the state of being physically, or I mean, the state of being or feeling physically and mentally protected from immediate and potential harms. Are what are your thoughts on that? If you're okay with that, thumbs up. If there's something that you want to add, we can add or change it now. All right, cool. I put it in the chat, and I think we're good with that one, Darren.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll share this also with the SAC representatives. I know, who is it? We do have two student representatives on this committee as well. I just want to make
Can you pull it up? Oh, I can't get it in the chat. Can you pull it up again? The last part of it. What is the last sentence?
which
I
one?
saw you flashed it on the screen that was in the chat, but um, I
On
couldn't.
my screen, Fraser?
Oh, yes. Or somebody showed the chat definition, because the definition isn't on the screen.
Yeah, I don't know how to share the chat, but
Okay, wait a minute. Let me go see if,
I
because I
can,
can.
um,
Okay,
I
I
can
got
say,
it. I got it. It says protected from immediate or potential harms. Should it be harms? And if not, should it be protected from immediate and or potential harm? I mean, does that make any sense? Mentally protected from immediate and or potential harm.
I don't. That's fine, I guess. Yeah, and or
And or, yeah. And slash or.
cool. You got that, Darren? Wait, by the way, is everyone okay with that? Cool. Yep, I think we're good with that. Darren, were
Okay.
you able to get that?
Sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. Yeah, I have
Okay,
that. And I'll capture that again in the committee report.
thank you.
But thank you all. I'll stop sharing the screen.
All right. Would love to debrief the My Brother's Keeper event summit. Darren, you were there. I've heard so many amazing things about how you just jumped in. Would you love to share a little bit about that?
Sure. I shared with you all just some highlights that the organizer of it, Brunel Holland, he shared some highlights with me. And so I could share some of that with you. I know he said approximately 160 attendees, several students. Ebony Rose also came, and so she was one of the speakers. Lots of excellent speakers, and you could read more about that. There were, let me see here, a number of schools. I have my notes. I'm just now. So there were eight schools, including Columbia Heights, Czech McFarland Middle School, Dunbar High School, Ron Brown College Prep, Ballou High School, Statesman College Prep, Phelps, and Washington Leadership Academy. During there were a lot of I guess input and feedback from students. I'm just trying to pull up a few images of that. Let me just share my screen with that. And I could share these images as well with you all, but up on the, these are some of the pictures I took from it, but one of the questions was, when do you feel the most unsafe? And so students were typing into their phones this question. And so a lot of them said school, walking, night, things like that. Another one, let me just stop sharing because I think I have somebody's contact in here. But another portion of this was, I'm trying to figure out how to share my, oh, there we go. Share screen. Another question was, are you planning a meeting with a key decision maker to activate them in your cause? What would you do before the meeting? What does it matter to them? What is the agenda? And so on. And so just using the frame of student safety, a lot of them shared out their plans. Let me just make sure, sorry, one more. Let me just make sure I can flip to those. Oh yeah, so. So this is what some of them look like. So they were in groups of about 3 or 4 students. They shared things like this. And I could share these offline with you all, but gun violence in the district. Well, these are kind of flipped around, but a lot of them were very helpful around gun violence. One group talked about the importance of mental health. Let me just flip this around. To Aussie, just sharing out like their thoughts on a lot of these. But again, I'll just share these out with you in the interest of time. But it was just, I think, very well attended. All the students were just so engaged with it. And Burnell mentioned that it won't be the last summit. He wants to continue doing it. We also talked today, and it was we were both agreeing it's very timely with the chronic absenteeism discussions and hearings going on. So yeah, I could share that with you, and if you have any questions, just let me know. But it was a lot of really good feedback and eye-opening the experiences of students around safety. I also got a few of the students' contact information. I shared information about signing up as an SAC member for the next school year, as well as if they're interested in providing testimony at a public meeting. I kind of walked them through how to go about doing that. And if they'd like to just share more information with our committee, I got some of their contact information as well.
Also, if you're looking for a student related to safety, there is a young lady that is a Ward 8 resident, goes to another school, Duke Ellington, I believe, and she's been hosting roundtables at her school related to violence in the community. A community member texted us. I know Jock has been linking with the school and her. So, and she showed up to like one of the community meetings, so it seems like she's engaged. So that can be another voice, student voice, to link you all to. It seems like she's pretty willing to get to some of these meetings or events to discuss.
Carlin, can you do you plan on sharing that with us? If I can attend, I'd love to attend.
Oh, it's not an event. It's more of a if we need another student voice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the meeting that it was a prayer something breakfast in Ward 8 last weekend, and they were able to get the student. I think Philip Pinnell, one of our community activists, saw her. She was in the Washington Post. An article he forwarded to a few people, and he was trying to get in contact with her. So Jock made the connection because they go to the same school. So or not him. Yeah, Jock has a connection there. I don't want to put his information on blast, but So yeah, she was, but she's leading like roundtables at her school related to, I believe, gun violence or violence in general. And like kind of forming her own circles, and it made it to the Washington Post. So if you want to include her in some of the talks.
Cool. Thank you very much. We'll take note of that. If there are any other questions related to that? Great. Let's go on to debriefing December's mental health professional development panel. Okay.
Another panel that I could have listened to them talk so much longer. But at least a good start to the conversation. And the team from, I can't remember between the all of them, but the student rep who was there, or student advisory council member. I love that he did a case study and brought it and synthesized information that he did with talking to the mental health provider at his school. And then the lady on the end, I can't remember which organization, really great points and feedback. And then the teacher who was in the middle, probably linking his work to our other committee with the teacher well-being resources, because he's been doing some research related to that.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I do want to, I do admit though, I don't think I got as much of the professional development component as I would like. I think I got a lot from the mental health component, but not the mental health professional development component, which was, I think, our main point. And so I'm not sure that I left with all of my questions answered as it relates to the professional development part of it.
And for my clarity, what is mental health professional development? I know it sounds silly, but like, what are we shooting for here? Like how to train people?
That was a question I asked in the, I was like, what should we expect? What are we supposed to see? And so I didn't really get that answer. And so, yeah, that was my one takeaway from that.
And just a quick note, one of the panelists that unfortunately could not make it was Kevin Parker, who's the director of school mental health, the mental health website for, or director school mental health for DCPS. He said he could share just more information with the board on mental health resources and professional development for teachers. But yeah.
All right. Any other thoughts on this?
I would be interested in and willing to work on a resolution asking for expanding the funding for the educator wellness programs that we do have, because they seem incredibly beneficial to teachers and by extension to students. And we're not reaching all the schools. Like some percentage of schools have it and it's great, but we're not supplying that to everyone. So I don't know if there would be if you would be open to working on that. I would be willing to start that, spearhead that.
I'm personally in favor of it.
I can dust off my old resolution writing skills and support you with that, Rep. Henderson, because I was literally about to say, what are we going to do with the information? And then you started chiming in on writing the resolution. I'm just curious, is there anything else that we might want to consider to complement the resolution? Like I know budget season's coming up with our letter for that. I'm not sure if there are other initiatives that we need to be a presence for. So I'm curious of anything else besides the resolution. Which
Yeah, I should have suggested that for the budget letter. I don't think it's too late to do that though.
It's not, but it's almost.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
I've got a
hear
little.
that. Okay.
We'll see you.
All right. So moving on, committee school visits and next steps. I have a couple in January, but I did not finish them all by December for me.
I did two earlier this month. And I did ask the question about defining safety, but I think the responses that I got basically fit within the definition that we arrived at. Um, a few other things that came up, talking about safety, like most of the issues were around getting to and from school, and specifically about like metro public transit being being the that and very busy intersections were the primary concerns. Um, and then I also asked them about like out of school time stuff, and they gave some suggestions for, um, I asked them like, what are three things that you would be interested in doing, and got a whole range of like sports stuff and modeling, designing came up, um, volleyball. I can collect all those and put them in one spot if it would be helpful. And then I asked them about absenteeism, asked um, why students might not make it to school. They talked a lot about caring for siblings. I mean, a whole range of issues. Uh, and actually, they didn't mention this during the safety discussion, but they during discussion about absenteeism, they mentioned bullying as being a reason why students might not want to come to school. So I can write out a little summary like Carlene had done. Um, yeah, okay, thank you. I see that now, Darren.
I have
I'll-
I know I did Baloo and Anacostia already in the what's the thing? The document that I prepared. But I went back to Blue Tuesday. It was funny, I went black, but I went during the attendance and the hearing. Yeah. And it was totally different students. It was actually students who usually aren't pulled to have all the conversations. It was for my sorority. We're building a mentoring group at Blue. So when they mentioned that I was the Ward 8 State Board of Education rep, they were like, all these ideas started getting hurled towards me. But it was interesting though. One of the young ladies was like, I was like, oh, it seemed pretty calm in here, like walking in the front door. And she was just like, yeah, a lot of students are engaged in like groups like this today. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Meaning like the sorority mentorship. I think the seniors had an event that they were at. And these young ladies were in this room with us. And then it was like a few other things going on in the building. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. So then I was like, well, they mentioned they were like, we want a longer spring break. So I told them, I was like, well, with the attendance being the way it is, I was like, I would have to convince like the chancellor, et cetera, to like give you all more time off looking at the attendance rates. And her response was, we're at school, we're just not in class. So actually, I'll paraphrase it. We be at school, we just not in class. And I was like, oh, really? And I was like, so just interesting, because I was actually texting Representative Henderson. I was reflecting on my time in high school where I would miss my attendance period because I was in the student government office. Now, Robert was like, you're not being a good representative. But it was just interesting that hear that students say like, we're in the building. So I'm curious to see if her statement matched at all with, are students really in the building? They're just not present in class. And if so, why is that? And is it because they are interested, certain programming, interested in that kind of thing? But it was just very interesting to hear students say that. And I was just like, wow, like, however many years later, and same thing, like I was no different than what she was mentioning. So I'm wondering, have we as a city looked at that? Like, are students connected to school in buildings, or is it truly we can't find students, or students aren't physically coming to the buildings, which I do believe that is probably an issue too. But I just wanted to put that on mic of that interesting conversation. And then when we got done, I was like, oh, it's an attendance hearing. So yeah.
Cool. Let's see. All right. So I want to move on to next steps for 2024. We know we have the annual report coming up, and then the citywide engagements. I know we were talking about if we wanted to do like one or if we wanted to do multiple. So Darren, did you want to talk about this next part?
Yeah, the next steps for 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can share the work plan as well. As soon as that pops up. let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. This is not the right one. Here we go. Okay. Can you all see this? Okay, great. So just a few, actually, zoom out a little bit. So the Healthy Schools Facility Network, we're still, we have a report, but it's still being worked on. Maybe at the January committee meeting, Jen could brief us on this, but it is still going forward, and I can update this as well. The 2023 State of School Safety and Mental Health Report. There were a few things that we did not cover yet, but so for example, we didn't do anything, we haven't covered yet alternatives to SROs, things like that. So whatever we've touched on this year will go into the report, and I'll just be gathering some of the statistics, some of the testimony that we heard throughout 2023 related to school safety and mental health, but that would be later in FY24. So further out, there'll be a report that combines everything. And then the community engagement piece, all of you have shared that you're already reaching out to your schools. We were gonna do a survey and focus groups. I know we put that on hold just because the deputy mayor for education is having their school committee. I know Dan sits on that and is getting more information just to avoid duplicative work while we're doing the same thing that DME already is doing. I know Dan has been sharing out notes from that. So when we return maybe in January, Brandon, I don't know if you want to speak more to working around that. We can also update this work plan based on those developments with the DME's safety committee. But I think between members going to schools and hearing from students, some sort of state board engagement, whatever that looks like, that could be a part of that engagement, and then we could reconsider what other means, maybe through focus groups or surveys, just getting feedback on student safety. And the school community and wellbeing website is almost complete. I know I just met with Octo yesterday. Malayo, Rochelle, Alyssa, we've been working with them to update the website, so that's nearly complete. And then this mental health supports for non-crisis students. I know that was an area of interest, but that might be something for 2024. Is that accurate, Brandon?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So the main thing is going back to this report could help inform a lot of the work that the committee is doing and continues to do on that. Any questions? And I could also put this in the chat as well. Apologies. There you go. But a lot, and also, I'd be remiss not to say that we're also working on the annual report, the state board annual report. And so I'll be reaching out, just asking for what you'd like to see in the annual report. I could also share an example of last year's annual report. So actually,
Yeah, random question.
yeah.
I know the last year or two, Malaya has been pulling pictures from our social media. Is she doing
Uh-huh.
that yet? Or are we like, do we really have to send her pictures? That was helpful for, I know, for me to just have whatever pictures are on my social media account for people to like grab versus just like having to stop and go through. So I just wonder if that was still happening this year.
I think so. Let me ask. Let me follow up with you on that. But this is the 2022 annual report, and what the committee reports look like. Let's see here. I'm just gonna keep going down until I get to the committees. So committee work, and so the student advisory committee is in here. The accountability and assessment committee, just an overview of who we were. I'm sure that this committee's definition for safety will go in here. I know Caesar Safe Schools was another item. There was a lot that happened this year with the committee. And so just thinking about those and sharing those out. I'll send an email with prompts for this, but this is just to give you an idea of what the 2023 annual report should look like. And again, Carlene, I'll follow up with you on that question as well. But that's another, I think, next steps point that I want to throw out there was the annual report. I know Jen and Malaya are working on that right now, and we're getting them content for our committee.
Well, thank you for that, Darren. At this moment, I think we have gone through the agenda. Are there any other questions, or is there any new business that you all would like to discuss?
Y'all have a happy holiday and make sure we live up to our committee name of getting, what are we, wellness and community. So, find some wellness within your community.
Thank you. Thank you. Everyone, you take care and enjoy your holidays.
I want to thank all of you too. Brandon, thank you so much for sharing this, and thank you all so much for sharing out panelist ideas. I look forward to 2024, but thank you all.
Likewise. And it's also been an honor to work with you all. Take care.
Take care. Bye.